At 7:26 a.m., Thomas Reed parked his car at the edge of Pine Ridge Forest. He locked the doors. He took his backpack. He walked past the trailhead sign. That was the last time anyone saw him for sure. It was a cool morning, the kind where the air feels clean and full of promise. The sun was just starting to climb over the trees, casting long shadows across the gravel lot. He gave a little nod to another early riser, a woman walking her dog near the entrance. And then he was gone, swallowed by the green. The woods were quiet, holding their breath for the day to begin. Thomas was 38 years old. He worked as a software technician. He liked the outdoors. He hiked on weekends. He knew these trails well. He had walked them many times. This was not a risky plan. It was a normal morning. He wasn't one of those thrill seekers. He was a careful man who respected the quiet power of the wilderness. He found a kind of peace out there, away from the hum of computers and the rush of the city, a place where things made simple sense. He told his sister he would be gone for a few hours. He planned a familiar loop, about 6 miles. He expected to be back by early afternoon. He had good shoes. He had a map in his head. He described the route to her over coffee the day before, tracing it with his finger on a napkin. "Just a quick one," he'd said with a smile to clear my head. It was a path he could walk with his eyes closed, or so he thought. A trail like an old friend, one you trust to lead you right back. When Thomas did not come home by sunset, people grew worried. His sister checked his phone. No answer. The next morning, his car was still at the trailhead. Inside, his phone charger. Inside, his wallet. Inside, a pair of spare shoes. Everything looked normal, too normal. The first threads of unease wove into heavy fear. Unanswered calls, growing darkness, the stillness of his empty house, it all pointed to something being wrong. His car sat there patiently, a silent witness, holding the ordinary pieces of a life that had suddenly been put on pause. Search teams started fast. They used tracking dogs. The dogs picked up Thomas's scent. They followed it nearly 2 miles along the trail. Then the scent stopped. Handlers worked the dogs back and forth, urging them on. The trail went cold on the packed dirt. It didn't fade into the brush. It just vanished, like he'd been lifted off the ground. The dogs whined, sniffing the empty air. It was the first sign this search wouldn't be simple. Searchers found no broken branches, no blood, no signs anyone left the path. It was like he had disappeared in the air. Dozens formed lines, shoulder to shoulder, through the undergrowth. They searched for the smallest disturbance, a scuff mark, a snapped twig, a piece of fabric caught on a thorn. But the woods held their secrets tight. The forest floor looked untouched. Silence hung, broken only by calls. Volunteers walked the forest. Drones flew above. Teams checked rivers and creeks. They looked under thick brush. They searched ridges. They searched slopes. Drones scanned the canopy for colors that didn't belong. A blue jacket, a red shirt. Teams waded cold streams. They peered into dark crevices, calling his name until hoarse. Every shadow offered hope, then disappointment. The wilderness grew with every pass, mocking their efforts. They found nothing. Search teams started fast. They used tracking dogs. The dogs picked up Thomas's scent. They followed it nearly 2 miles along the trail. Then the scent stopped. Handlers worked the dogs back and forth, urging them on. The trail went cold on the packed dirt. It didn't fade into the brush, it just vanished like he'd been lifted off the ground. The dogs whined, sniffing the empty air. It was the first sign this search wouldn't be simple. Searchers found no broken branches, no blood, no signs anyone left the path. It was like he had disappeared in the air. Dozens formed lines, shoulder to shoulder, through the undergrowth. They searched for the smallest disturbance, a scuff mark, a snapped twig, a piece of fabric caught on a thorn. But the woods held their secrets tight. The forest floor looked untouched. Silence hung, broken only by calls. Volunteers walked the forest. Drones flew above. Teams checked rivers and creeks. They looked under thick brush. They searched ridges. They searched slopes. Drones scanned the canopy for colors that didn't belong. A blue jacket, a red shirt. Teams waded cold streams. They peered into dark crevices, calling his name until hoarse. Every shadow offered hope, then disappointment. The wilderness grew with every pass, mocking their efforts. They found nothing. No clothing, no backpack, no footprints off the trail. 2 full days of nothing but frustration. Hope curdled into grim resolve. Each sunrise renewed effort. Each sunset returned the same empty result. The forest seemed to have swallowed him whole. The search area expanded. The mystery only deepened. 3 days after Thomas disappeared, someone found his backpack. It was nearly 5 miles from the trail. The place made no sense. Thomas had no reason to be there. The discovery was made by a pair of volunteers who had pushed into a rugged, almost impassable section of the forest, far from any marked path or scenic overlook. Why would an experienced hiker on a simple day trip end up in a spot like this? It was a question no one could answer. The backpack held snacks, a bottle of water. It also had his car keys. His phone was not inside. Everything was neatly packed, as if he had just stopped for a rest. The backpack looked whole. No cuts or tears. It didn't look like an animal had torn it. It didn't look lost by mistake. It looked like someone set it down carefully. Investigators examined every inch. There were no claw marks, no tooth punctures, not even a single strap broken from a fall. It wasn't snagged on a branch or half buried in leaves. It was just sitting there, propped against the base of an old oak tree, almost as if it were waiting to be found. The scene felt staged, deliberate, and deeply unsettling. Investigators had more questions than answers. If Thomas had an injury, why would he leave the main trail? If he had lost his way, why leave food and water? If someone else was there, how did they move through the thick trees without leaving any signs? How did a person or animal move a bag 5 miles and leave no mark? Each new fact only made the story harder to read. The discovery of the backpack wasn't a breakthrough. It was a dead end, a clue that pointed in 100 different directions at once. The clear, simple narrative of a lost hiker had dissolved into something far more complex and troubling. People made many guesses. Well, some said Thomas had a sudden illness, a heart attack, or stroke. This theory had some weight to it. A medical emergency could cause confusion, leading a person to wander off into the dense woods without thinking straight. But it didn't explain how he could travel 5 miles through such difficult terrain. The carefully placed backpack, the missing phone. It was a simple explanation for a situation that felt anything but simple. Others thought an animal might have taken him. No blood, no torn clothes. Some feared that another person was in the woods that morning. Maybe someone met him. Maybe he met someone who did something bad. The animal theory was dismissed pretty quickly by the experts. A predator attack leaves a mark. The foul play theory lingered in the air like a bad chill. Thomas wasn't alone out there. He crossed paths with someone with dark intentions. But with no witnesses and no evidence, it was just another shadow in the woods. This mystery is not alone. Other hikers have vanished in deep woods. Some are found after long searches. Some are never found. Weather can make searching hard. Snow, wind, steep land, dense bushes hide tracks, rivers carry things away, whispered around campfires, or printed in small-town papers. Experienced people, folks who know the land, step into the wilderness and don't step out. Nature itself can be an accomplice, erasing clues with a single storm, or a season of overgrowth, making a recovery impossible. In many cases, time and weather hide the truth. Weeks passed, months passed. The case stayed open. Thomas was later declared legally dead. The official search scaled back to an active rescue, then a recovery mission, finally a cold case file. Seasons changed in Pine Ridge Forest. Autumn leaves fell and covered the ground. Then winter snows blanketed everything in a quiet white sheet. With each passing day, the odds of finding an answer grew smaller, and the story of Thomas Reed became another local legend, a cautionary tale. His family never stopped looking. They still visit Pine Ridge Forest. They still leave flowers near the trail. They still ask the same hard question. For them, the case is never cold. His sister walks that first stretch of the trail sometimes, standing at the spot where the dogs lost his scent. She looks into the deep woods as if staring hard enough will make the trees give up their secret. The grief doesn't fade, it just changes shape, becoming a permanent part of their lives. The question hangs in their home, unspoken but always present. Why? How does a man walk into the woods on a bright morning, on a trail he knows well, and never come back? How does a backpack end up 5 miles from that trail with keys inside and no phone? The forest keeps its silence. The search logs hold the facts. The questions stay. It's a riddle that defies easy logic. It's the kind of story that gets under your skin because it suggests that the world isn't always as orderly as we like to believe, that just beyond the edge of our well-lit lives, things can happen that we just can't explain. Thomas's story reminds us that the woods are calm and wild. They can hide small signs. They can hide big truths. People who love him remember his voice. They remember his laughter. They remember his careful steps on the trail. He isn't just a name in a case file. He was a son, a brother, a friend. He was a man who loved the quiet of the morning and the feel of the earth under his feet. And that's the real tragedy of it all. Not just the mystery, but the life that was lost within it, the empty space he left behind. If you walk a trail, take care. Tell someone where you go. Carry a full phone. Carry a map. Hike with a partner if you can. But know this, even careful people can vanish. Even real cases can seem impossible. The forest waits. The family waits. The question remains. What do you think happened to Thomas Reed? How does a man walk into the woods, on a familiar trail, in broad daylight, and never come back? Share your theory in the comments. Subscribe to Midnight Case Files for more unsolved mysteries, disappearances, and true crime stories.